Tips from Trestle is brought to you by the Belter Companies, Navigator Group Purchasing, eMenu Choice Point of Sale, and Clark Food Service and Equipment. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality Podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. During 3 decades in the hospitality industry, I focused my work on creating exceptional experiences for the customers we serve. My goal for this podcast? Educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By creating hospitality with a purpose, by bringing the customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Today on Tips from Trestle, I'm joined by Susan Black. Susan is a high-energy entrepreneur, accomplished strategist with a distinguished career successfully launching businesses and reinvigorating established brands within the travel industry. Throughout her career, she's led transformative customer-focused strategies for startups to Fortune 500 companies, generating $10 million to $10 billion in revenues. Susan's 60-plus travel clients have brought her across 37 countries and 6 continents and have included leading brands in travel and tourism. In 2021, Susan launched the award-winning Wowzitude, a live-streamed virtual travel for thousands of armchair travelers experiencing interactive guided walking tours in 100-plus cities around the world. Susan also held recent C-suite positions at CIE Tours, American Express Vacations, CheapCaribbean.com, and Liberty Travel. She served as chairperson, keynoter, and moderator for 37 Reuters Events travel conferences across the U.S. and internationally. She is a graduate of Rutgers University and holds a Master of Philosophy degree in Urban Planning from University College London. Susan, thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Thanks so much, Aaron. So thrilled to be here.
So I'm excited to talk to you because you are doing something very unique. And when we met initially a few months back, we sat down and you told me everything you did, and I thought it was fascinating. And it leans right into everything that I talk about here on the podcast about food, hospitality, resident experience in the community. And so I'm looking forward to learning more about Wowzitude. So tell us a little bit about what Wowzitude is and how it came about.
Well, I'm glad you asked that. During the pandemic, obviously, so many of us, well, all of us were in lockdown, and it really affected our older adults, perhaps more than anyone else. It really took away their ability to get out and about, freedom. And quite frankly, my mother was one of them. My mother was in assisted living. And although we had our regular Zoom calls during the pandemic, she said, got to get out. So with my background in travel, we came up with live stream virtual tours. It really started with one of my guides in Ireland. I'd been chief commercial officer of CIE Tours that you pointed out, and I called up Hazel and I said, Hazel, can you walk around O'Connell Street with my mom and myself with, I don't know, a selfie stick and a camera and talk to us? My mother said, wow, a lot. I said, that changed your attitude. She said, I've got gratitude. So wow plus gratitude, Wowzitude. It stuck. And from that very early beginning with very early equipment, we now have state-of-the-art equipment, over 97 guides, and now we're in 120 different cities.
That's amazing. There's so many people that I talk to when they go back and look at that time in 2020 and 2021, and it was, what do we do differently? How can we pivot? How can we be successful in not just maintaining our businesses, but also going into that senior living space and supporting residents who are, dealing with that isolation of quarantine and not having visitors the way they wanted to. And so, um, one of the things I'm curious about, though, is obviously it's not the same as getting on a plane and landing in Venice and touring in person. So, but kind of talk a little bit about this concept of a live stream travel tour. Because I think that might, we'll demystify that a little bit for the listeners.
Well, sure. So we call it a bit of a COVID catalyst because without COVID, none of this would have happened. It was the marriage of the ubiquitous nature of Zoom. We operate on the Zoom platform, so everybody was Zooming and still is nowadays very comfortable with that level of technology. Certainly the senior living communities are. 5 and 4G connectivity, so we're able to connect with guides in virtually, well, every continent we found, and also places like Yellowstone and the Australian bush and places that you wouldn't think have 5G connectivity
Oh,
do.
wow. Yeah.
The equipment they use, a stabilizer now to make it very smooth, and state-of-the-art mics, like you're doing with podcasts, make it a great interactivity because it also involves real-time questions through a moderator. No two tours are ever alike because they're unscripted and you never know what's going to happen. And we get dozens and dozens of questions going on from our armchair travelers, our Wowzitude travelers in each and every tour, because we are a subscription, which means that we're doing 2 live tours and then on demand every single week.
Wow. So you're not just doing like, hey, I've got a group of 10 residents that want to do a tour. You've got a subscription service where I can sign my community up and say, hey, you know what? I want to make this available all the time to our residents and prospects.
We do, and we managed to do it as a group tour. Remember, my background is in group tours, so I took the same learnings that I had in real world, as they said. And because we have a virtual, call it a bus, everybody's got a seat on the bus, and because our bus is so large and interactive, it is so affordable for people because we have groups of senior living communities traveling with us together. And it's this togetherness, this excitement, looking forward to whether we're going to Lima, Peru in the morning and then Budapest, Hungary in the afternoon, London for the theater. I mean, it just goes on and on. And we also have seasonal themes. We go to Christmas markets and we go to Salem for all the Halloween activities. And it's of the moment, it's live. Yeah. So as we like to say, the wow moment is the now moment.
So I'm curious, when you start thinking about, you mentioned this really large bus full of not just senior residents, but senior communities.
Correct.
How do you manage the live portion of that? How do you do that interactive piece so that way it doesn't get chaotic, if you will?
So glad you asked that. And this is the evolution of Wowzitude. In the very beginning, we thought that we had to be limited so that we could be totally interactive and really create an immersive experience. And we'll talk about food in a second because it's part of it too. But what we found is that there's just a handful of people that like to ask the questions. The vast majority like to listen to the questions that people ask because oftentimes it's the same questions they have on their mind, usually about the culture or about cuisine or about all sorts of things that are going on. Not just the history of what we're seeing. And people like to hear, what we call the regular questioners, the curious, culturally curious. Yeah. And they're very happy to listen. Now they can join in, but we've never, ever, ever had a tour that we were not able to get to all the questions. And we've had as many as 1,800 individuals on a single tour, and we're still able to be completely interactive with real-time questions.
1,800 is a lot of people.
That was a lot. That was unusual. That was unusual, and that was a lot, but that was a special occasion.
But it also is telling, though, that one, this is something that people want to engage in, and two, that the capability of being able to, serve so many people in one finite amount of time is pretty impressive. So, you alluded to the food and kind of some of that, right? And so I want to dive in a little bit about the content selection and how you curate that. and how you bring experiences other than just sitting on a camera like this to the communities. Because I think from our previous conversations, that's the piece that really intrigued me and I found really kind of a really nice addition to the tour.
Well, my mom was not just the first traveler on Wowzitude. She was the one that challenged the fact that when she goes touring and when she travels, she likes to eat.
Yep.
Now, I reminded her that we were on a virtual tour. And she reminded me that she had every confidence that I would creatively solve that problem. And we did. So what we do is we have for each and every one of our tours a trip kit. And the trip kit has local recipes that are cultivated and curated by our guides. It also has a local alcoholic adult beverage because why not?
Right.
Enjoy that either the night before, et cetera, et cetera. We do have movie and book recommendations, maps, music, all sorts of things. But it's that we also have, for those who don't want to cook the recipes, because not everybody wants to cook, we have snacks that can be ordered on Amazon or Costco or all sorts of things, and they are specific to the local delicacies. And we do our research. We have a huge research team that makes sure that these local delicacies are available either locally or through Amazon or Costco.
Yeah, I love that idea, right? Because that is part of the when I go in and work with clients, right? I always say, well, we've got to get the basics of the food service operation right. But that's just like the very first piece. There's so much more on top of it. And you have to create that environment, that community experience is really what sells a community, right? And so to be
Well,
able to
Aaron, you know what's really exciting? We have food services partnering with the activity directors. So because we do this every week and we publish it at least 2 months in advance, 2 months in advance, they're able to create the atmosphere. So if we are going to Krakow in Poland, they are making pierogies and everybody's getting into it. And you can see we have tons of pictures on our website of people eating the pierogies, having the beignets when they go to New Orleans. I mean, having all these things. And it's a totally immersive experience. And that's what we want because food is so much a part of the experience when you travel. And so we are able to do that and partner with food services for a truly creative experience.
Yeah, it reminds me, my wife and oldest son just recently got back from a tour of Europe. And so they visited some spots. And one of the highlights was they were in Rome and went to a cooking class. And so not more than a couple days back, they were like, we got to get the ingredients, we got to make this dish that we made for you. And it was that experience of being a part of the food is one of those takeaways that they had on the real tour. And so being able on your end to include the entirety of the community to say, hey, this is what we're doing from a food and drink standpoint for our tours, and it's available every week is such a really cool experience that I think elevates what you're doing to a whole nother level.
And we work with the guides. We make sure that whatever the recipe is that we're sharing with all of our subscribers, our Wowzitude subscribers, they go into the bakery. They'll meet the baker for the recipe that we have from the baker. So now you have the baker who gave us the recipe. This is a fabulous place, by the way, right on the Seine in Paris. And we do this in every single place that we go. So we try to create, this is what it is, and you may be tasting it now, or you may have had it for dinner last night. So we tie that in. The whole thing is very cohesive.
Today, I want to tell you about one of Tressel's senior living partners, Belter. Belter is a food service design, equipment, and supply company that has been providing expert guidance to the food and beverage industry for nearly a century. A strategic partner to the most successful food service operations in the country, Belter provides support in kitchen and bar design, equipment procurement and install, and supplies. Their team of senior living food service experts have experience across the continuum of care. From independent living to skilled nursing and CCRCs, Belter specializes in right-sizing new facilities, modernizing remodels, and providing the right food service equipment and supplies. At Belter, They are committed to creating memorable experiences for their customers and their guests. With their top-notch team and a global network of quality supplier partners, their customer-focused approach is built on a foundation of collaboration and decades of industry experience. So thank you for considering Belter for all of your food service needs. Yeah, and so obviously that's the part of one part of this I'm really intrigued about, but there's more to that. Obviously, in creating that authentic experience, the food piece helps. What do you do from the virtual aspect to create that authenticity when you're on the live tour?
Well, oftentimes we can get to places that groups can't get to. We can zoom in because of the equipment. This is great for people that may have some vision problems. We have live stream, also closed captions. So those with hearing problems can see it too. We are able to get to places that if you have a group of 5, 10, 20, they don't allow people in, but our guides, because they're all licensed guides, can get in and we can see things that, quite frankly, even guests can't see. We also go to places in off season. So nobody wants to go to a place when it's really cold and not the greatest weather, but we do because we're nice and safe and warm in our senior living community. And the guide gets a little cold, but that's okay. And there's not a lot of crowds then, and we can see so much that you can't see when everybody's going and crowding and popular, different things. But we're seeing it live, which sometimes means that it's in the evening. We see beautiful sunsets on their end. It's daytime for us,
right?
And we really try to find the most interesting, most creative. We work so closely with our guides. We have a whole guide team that works on each and every itinerary to optimize it for senior living communities.
Yeah, it's I love the whole idea. And I know one of the things that you guys focus on that's really important when you put together the tours and the tour packages and the kits, the kind of fostering that social connection, right? That's so important. I mean, that's how you started, right? Was trying to figure out a way to do that.
We did. And it's really interesting because so many of the residents are well traveled at this point, but they don't know that. So they get to a community, and it's unnatural to walk over to somebody saying, "So, have you been to London?" I mean, that's not something that happens.
Right.
So what we do whenever we go on tour, we always have a moderator and we have a tour concierge with every single one of our tours, and the moderator will greet everyone. And the moderator will ask, if you've been to London, raise your hand. Now look around the room. You see someone whose hand is raised, afterwards go and ask them how their trip was. And we get emails and tons of response about, wow, we had people who never knew that they traveled before. Now they're best friends because they're big travelers and they're reminiscing about the times and they can't wait to their next Wowzitude virtual tour. So it really is all about the community. It's all about bringing community together, which is why we offer book recommendations and movie recommendations, because we want to have book club. We want immersion. We want people to get excited and look forward to the next place that they're going to.
Yeah, creating that social connection when you think about what you do initially, right? Like it's just I know it's not this, but just think, oh, it's just a Zoom person on Zoom walking around with a camera showing me the sites. That's not what you've done. You've taken that basic idea and you've just layered on top of it with all of these great things that are causing residents to interact, that is bringing the experience to them, that's engaging multiple senses. I mean, it could just be visual, right? But now you've got the taste of the food, the drink, the smells of cooking, the touch of even maybe doing the cooking demonstration and working with the chef locally on the recipe from the baker or from the wherever you're visiting. And so I love all of the pieces of the puzzle that you've kind of stacked here with each other. And so one of the other things is what kind of interaction do you get from these tour guides with residents when you have smaller groups? I know we talked about those really large groups, but when you get those really intimate groups, maybe like a community wants a specific specialized tour.
Yep.
What is that? How does that look different than maybe a large tour for like the 1800 you mentioned?
Well, most of our tours are not the 1800s. That was a special one. That's when we knew that we could get really big. Most of our tours are in the hundreds. And quite frankly, that sounds like a lot, but it's really not when you think of all the communities that join. We have dozens of communities that join in on a single tour. But when it comes to the tours, we're all about the shout out. So we ask the activity directors, is there something special, a connection with this place that we're going to? Is it someone's anniversary? Did they go there on their honeymoon? Did they travel there with friends? Are they from that place? And we get stories and stories. We have a collection now of about 47 stories of people who have connected through virtual tours with some wonderful thing in their life. And it may be that their parents are from there and they've always wondered what it looked like, and now they get to see it. Or one of our travelers celebrated her 102nd birthday, 102 years old. She's from Dublin, hasn't been there in over 60 years. And that, when she was 18 years old, is where she met her husband under the clock at Cleary's on O'Connell Street. We went right by there, and she was able to share that story with all of us through the activity director and through our moderator. So we all shared in the story of when she met her husband there decades ago. So
Wow.
we hear these stories all the time. They're heartwarming. They're wonderful. We had one tour. This was a smaller tour where one of the residents' family was in Paris. They were on vacation, her daughter, son-in-law, and their kids. And we made arrangements with the activity director. And guess what? We were having our tour. Guess who's in the background? And guess who came on camera? Her family. So, wow. So we look
Very
for these
cool.
wow moments. It's in the name. We look for the wow moments, either with the buildings we see, the stories we tell, the things that we want to surprise and delight people with. Really, give us a challenge, give us an idea, and we look to rise to it because we are all about the wow moment.
Yeah. And so one question that kind of comes from that, as you say, like give us a challenge and let's find a new place. How do you collaborate with the local guides or the local tourism boards to do that? Because I'm sure that they want to do that, but they're also wanting people to come. So how do they balance that with you?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. We have just as many people now, believe it or not. We started with senior living communities, and that's still the core of our audiences. But guess what? A funny thing happened, and we have museum groups and library groups and others, people who are likely to travel. And we even have tour operators who sponsor it for their travelers. And what's really super interesting is that we have a taste of. So if we're going to, with a subscription, you're going to well over 100 different destinations.
Yeah.
How much fun is it to sit back and say, let's take a look at Porto. Maybe it's someplace that we want to go as a group. Or we've always thought about going to Ljubljana in Slovenia. Who's heard of that, right? But it looks like Disney. So why not? It's got great pricing and it's an hour away from Venice. How cool is that? So we give people a taste of. Tourist offices love it
Oh,
because
yeah.
now it inspires people to go. But the interactive part, the fact that you can ask the guides, when's the best time to go? How should we go? What are the prices like? What should we be aware of? I mean, they live there. They're licensed guides. And
Yeah.
you can ask any questions you want about either the culture, the history, or what it's like to travel there.
I love that. And that kind of, as we wrap up here, it leads me into my question about future plans, but I'm going to two-part this. So one is, you made me curious to ask about now that we are coming into a more normal setting around travel and where we can go. Are you seeing those opportunities to take Wowzitude from virtual to real and build upon those?
Navigator is the largest full-service GPO that exclusively focuses on the senior living community. And what that means is we provide products and services that help our members provide a great environment for their residents, such as like MRO, hospitality equipment, food, business products, as well as technology solutions. We actually surround our members with a level of support unmatched in the industry.
Well, we've been asked that a lot, and quite frankly, we do connect our guides with people who are looking to go in real life. We do a lot of heritage tours with museums. We do Irish heritage tours, Jewish heritage tours. We do quite a lot of specialty ones, and so it's really great to know a specialist in a destination if you're planning to go and you don't know a specialist and you have a particular type of tour you'd like to see. So we do a lot of connections. It's not in our plans. And remember, I come from, my entire career was sending people out to someplace. Now I'm bringing them in. It's not in our plans to do it, but what is in our plans is expanding out. There's so many communities. There's so many people who would love to, because either they're planning a trip or they're not able to travel any longer, but they want to continue. They're culturally curious and they want to continue traveling and seeing what it's like in the world and learning about different cultures. And this is, whether it's a 55 plus community, other museums, of course, senior living communities, those who choose to stay at home and are with caregivers at home, whomever it may be, we want to bring this sense of community, this sense of wonder and wanderlust that they look forward to. And they know that they're going on minimally 2 tours every single week. And by the way, if you miss a tour, something happens.
Right.
See it the next day on demand for 24 hours only, then like Cinderella disappears. But we are cognizant that sometimes life gets in the way, but it's still relevant because it's just a day later. So whatever we talked about with an upcoming holiday, if it's Christmas, it's still going to be Christmas next week. So we make that, and then poof, it goes away forever. So it's still got that of the now moment. But we really want to make this as accessible to as many people as humanly possible. And that's really our plans.
That's really great. So as we wrap up here, what are 2 or 3 destinations that you're getting ready to add to your list of locations that are the listeners can look forward to?
Oh, that's a great question because we go to so many already. I have to tell you, we get a lot of feedback of where people would like to go. So one of my favorites that I'm looking forward to, we haven't gone there yet, is Reykjavik in Iceland. It's beautiful, and we want to go even outside of Reykjavik. We want to see just the incredible glaciers and a lot of things before they go away, God forbid. But Iceland is just a beautiful place. I've been there in real life, as they say, so I'd like to go there virtually. We also we're going up to Machu Picchu.
Oh,
That's not easy to get to, but guess what? They've got 5G connectivity. So we're going to go up to Machu Picchu and we're going to hike up there as well. And one of the other areas that I'm super excited about going to is Nepal. Again, I was there years ago. It is just incredible in Kathmandu. Such great culture, such incredible things. We found a guide who does virtual tours there now, and we're so excited to welcome him on. But we onboard usually about 10 new destinations every single month. We vet them entirely. Sometimes it's one of our guides who now is going to a different place and they've done it multi-tours before. Or sometimes it's a new guide who is local and lives there. But we're also very inclusive. We are very big on DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion. So we try to go to underserved areas, particularly in areas where the infrastructure may not be there, so we can show the wonders of places where it's really hard to get to. And that's the beauty of virtual tours too, because you can see things and ask questions live in places you never, ever, ever thought you'd be able to get to.
yeah, I love that last part where you're basically, because of the way you've set it up, you've kind of opened the world to everybody because you don't need all that crazy infrastructure. You literally need to have a person with connectivity and the right equipment to be able to take you through wherever it might be, whatever corner of the globe.
All you need is Wi-Fi and a computer and you're ready to go. That's all
amazing.
you need.
So,
and we do the rest, and it's our pleasure to do the rest. We love it. Our entire team is passionate, and that is the word I would use. Every single day, we love it. We love the feedback that we get. We love the guides that we work with. There's one guide, for example, beautiful UNESCO sites in Arequipa, Peru. we are her entire family's income for the guide fees that we pay. So we feel so great about what we do for both our armchair travelers as well as the guides every single day.
Yeah, the whole thing is really great, and I'm sure there are going to be people out there trying to copy what you're doing, and so just so glad we were able to connect and learn about this. So as we wrap up here, Susan, please tell our listeners where they can find more information, where they can get their communities connected to you, all of the great information.
Thank you, Aaron. Well, as you see above my head, I have the lovely Wowzitude, wow and gratitude, Wowzitude. So if you go to our website, which is www.wowzitude.com, makes it easy, you'll see all of that. You can sign up online. You can call us up. It is a subscription, quite affordable for most communities. If you have a problem with anything, we also do work with underserved communities. That's very important to our values as well. We want to make sure that this is accessible to everyone who wants it. We want to make sure, so we'll work with you if there's any issues at all. But we hope that you're going to go traveling with us because the world is so big, it's so exciting, it's so interesting, and we want to have that for both you and your residents each and every day.
Susan, thank you so much for being on Tips from Trestle today, and best of luck with Wowzitude. Look forward to watching what you do.
Thank you so much, Aaron. It's been a pleasure.
So there you have it, another one in the books. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on Twitter at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestlehospitalityconcepts.com. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.